Welcome back to Tea and Cuts with Alisa, where we spill all the tea about sexuality. I'm your host, Alisa Brunetti Mukai, and today on the couch we have Joelle. Welcome, Joelle.
Hello.
Hello, thank you for coming today. First, please introduce yourself and what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I'm Joelle Marcelle. I am a somatic coach and body worker, and I mostly work with queer people, neurodivergent people, and mostly about topics around gender, sexuality, everything in between. And today we are talking about what is somatics and how can that help in the bedroom and when it comes to sexuality.
Yes, perfect. So let's first ask exactly that. So what exactly is somatics for people who doesn't know what it is? Not only about the definition of words, but what it means for you also.
Yeah. I would say that somatics really is living inside of your body and in connection with other people and the world, nature around you in a way that's like really responsive to what is happening in the real time and real moment. Because often under pressures, if we've been traumatized or something, we're actually reacting to the past or maybe to a future. But somatics really is about coming back into your body so that you can feel, sense, and then really get connected with what you long for, what matters to you, what are your values, and then living aligned with those values and things like that. So I would say that's how I see somatics. And it's also really important that in the field of somatics that I have studied, called somatics, we take into account social context. Like we as human beings have become who we are, impacted by the social norms, as well as we can change those social norms, social, political, all these different norms. And when it comes to sexuality as well, a lot of what we can do or feel like we're allowed to do is shaped by wider societal norms and expectations when it comes to gender, like how we express our gender, um, also through sexuality, like in terms of what kind of roles some people tend to take or not take. And so that's a really important aspect because we never um, change and transform in isolation, but we also we're always impacted by those norms and and that is really, I think, really relatable and important for sexuality because of how sex negative in a way I would say our society is. And I mean that from a somatic perspective, where sex is either a way to objectify bodies, which is again not a way to honor bodies and to honor the wisdom of our bodies, or it is the other end of the spectrum, which is, purity culture, modesty, this kind of uh, Christian. Uh, Christian sort of legacy that sex is either viewed through. I think those two lenses are the main way. And the way I think that somatics can really bring like another perspective to that. And that's like, okay, let's connect with our bodies, our partners' bodies, and with each other and make choices from there.
Can I ask, how did you start getting into the study of somatics?
Yeah, I that was actually around when COVID happened,
Okay.
and I used to be Christian way back in the day, before I transitioned, and I I have a, a bachelor's and master's from theology. Just a fun fact. But I it just I started to change as we human beings do, and Christianity wasn't um, like a useful way of looking at the world for me anymore. It wasn't really doing it for me. And I needed new tools and new ways of regulating my emotions. And so I was already a little bit interested in, well, I had studied some different kinds of couples therapy and psychology a little bit, and I became more and more interested in embodiment, somatics, emotional regulation, things like that. And the more I started to get in contact with my body, the more I saw how powerful it is and how really there's so much wisdom in my and our bodies. And so yeah, the more I started getting in touch with my own body, the more um, because another thing that's important in somatics is our somatic awareness. So our ability to feel, sense what is happening in our body, emotions as well as sensory information. And the more we can get in touch with that, the more we can actually see, like, oh, these are the things that I like, and these are the things that I don't like. These things are overwhelming to me. These things bring me more joy, pleasure, you know. And for me too, I've been working with people around their gender and sexuality topics, as well as just getting more interested in my own sexual exploration around, sex with different genders, as well as kink and BDSM things. And I see such an overlap between those topics because both of them have to do with the body and have to do with feeling, sensing, and acting from the body. Yeah.
And right now, what kind of sessions do you offer for the somatic practices?
Yeah. So, broadly speaking, we can talk about somatic coaching and somatic bodywork.
Mm-hmm.
And so, somatic coaching is more conversational, just like we're talking here right now. It can be done also online. And there we are using different coaching questions and bringing in the body through somatic awareness, as I was talking about, really asking, like, and what are you noticing in your body? What feelings or sensations come up when you talk about this? Because again, we're not just floating heads; we are whole brain body systems, and there's so much wisdom and information that comes from our bodies. And so, the better we can get in contact what matters to us, what we feel, the better we can take actions to um, be aligned with that. And so there are different practices also, somatic practices that we do in the coaching sessions that are about building these new skills and competencies to actually live the life that you want to live. So, for example, how to be more centered. There's like a centering practice that's a foundation practice. How to be more centered in moments of pressure or stress. How to, like when you get off balance, how to come back a little bit more. And there are different practices around mutual connection, consent, things that are also very related to sexuality. So we do different practices inside of those coaching sessions to really support the client in what they want to get out of the session and what is their like overarching, what we call commitment or longing. And we're really trying to move towards that. So yeah, coaching is more conversational. There are different practices and a more clearly defined longing or vision where the person is moving towards. And then somatic bodywork is in principle very similar. It um, it brings many of the same principles and questions that we use in coaching, as well as somatic awareness. But most of it happens on a massage table, and there how it is different from massage first is the technique. Instead of like kneading the muscles, we are using different holds, like a hand on chest and a hand of and at the back of the um, on the back or on the shoulders, any kind of different holds, pressure points or breath patterns, and also some different movements. And so by doing that, we're always coming back to this question, like what might this tension or this emotion that might be stuck somewhere in the body, what might this be taken care of? So we're really trying to get to the root of it. And as a client, you are like actively participating with your attention, with answering the questions. And those sessions can be either quite conversational, like the coaching session, or it can be um, not very conversational, but still the person is being very actively present in that. And so in both sessions, but especially bodywork sessions, like what we're working with essentially is creating somatic opening, which is opening in the muscles as well as in the emotions to release what's held, what's contracted. And that can look like bigger emotional openings and really processing emotions that have gotten stuck in the body. So, yeah.
I'm curious, like when you just live in your daily life, do you like randomly find a emotional opening up in like people's body language, like just randomly noticing people's body language and the stuff in a like a random cafe?
That is a really good question. As a somatic coach, we are actually trained to develop our somatic seeing. So, seeing where, for example, people are contracted, what we call armoring bands, like where are contractions in the body, they can show up as a tensing up or like a slackness or a looseness that's not like restful, but that is like a collapse kind of so yeah, it's I do tend to like when I'm meeting new people, I tend to like pick up on things where like let's say a person has a lot of tension in their eyes, so they might be like tensing their eyes, like kind of squinting them or blinking a lot, or their eyes might be very wide, for example. So it's really interesting to notice those things, and it has become very automatic. What I'm trying not to do, also what I don't do during the sessions, is that I'm not making assumptions about what that might mean. Rather, it's a curiosity for me of like, oh, how might their eyes feel, or whatever other thing I'm noticing. And I do think that I can't separate myself being a coach or a body worker and a person. I think, yeah, I've always been, I think, a very sensitive person, but especially going through these trainings, I've become much more so. And one of the main things that I tend to hear from people is like how safe and grounding I am to them when they meet me. And so it is a very like automatic thing, because as we say in somatics, is that we are what we practice and we become what we practice. And so the more I practice being centered, being open, or noticing people's emotional or somatic openings, uh, the more automatic it becomes, and it becomes almost like second nature, or well, it becomes embodied, you know. And um, and I also think it translates back to my own sexual life because, um, well, in a way, I would say that uh, sex is, well, it is body work.
Yeah.
It is,
We use our body.
yes. I'm working on another person's body, or I'd rather say through and with the other person's body. It's a collaborative experience, and the same way that I am noticing what's happening inside of a client in a bodywork session, the same way I'm noticing where there might be opening, what might be bringing pleasure or discomfort to my partner when I'm like having sex. And so in that way, although the body work that I do is not doesn't have sexual touch, and the um, main saying that we actually say about body work is that safe touch is healing. The same kind of wisdom I do bring to my any relationship, but also including sexual relationships. And it really, I do think that I had become a better partner, romantically and sexually, um, after having done all of this training. Yeah, because also my embodiment journey and my transformation is always ongoing. I'm always in some kind of practice as well.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Is there any practical somatic technique that you can share that people can use, like a before sex or during sex or after sex?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are three main things that come to my mind right now. One is what we call mutual connection practice, and can I show this with you?
Yes, please.
Okay, so mutual connection first. Always every practice has a principle or what we're practicing towards. And so mutual connection is really about this feeling yourself while staying in contact with the other person. So that some people who might be overextenders might leave themselves when they are in contact with another person, of like, oh, my needs don't matter. And that often shows up as leaning towards.
Yeah, I'm very much that.
Some other people might be more like leaning backward, like connection is not really safe, so I might not be able to really lean in as much. And that's always felt in a relationship. And often those two different types of people tend to be attracted to each other for obvious reasons. And so this is really about first feeling yourself, feeling maybe your butt, your legs, support of the couch. For a moment, just feeling yourself. And then I'm just going to come closer to you. The way we do this is you take one of your hands. Yeah, let's do it both right hand. Yeah. And we place it on the chest. You place yours on my chest, and I place it on yours.
Oh, this is like a tantric exercise.
Maybe, yeah. And is touch okay? Yeah. And here too, feeling for how's your hand? That your elbow would not be locked. And you can place your hand on my hand. Like, because if your elbow would be locked, you'd be really pushing me away. But I was also feeling for that your elbow would not be like really collapsed. Because otherwise there wouldn't be any
You
space.
wouldn't enjoy that, yeah.
Yeah. And here you can also feel, if you can feel my heart with your hand. And it can be as simple as like just staying like this. And all the time continuing to feel like, can I feel myself while I'm feeling the other person? And also, is it safe enough for me to look into the partner's eyes? And maybe it might not be, it doesn't have to be. It can be too much. And then also feeling for how long can you stay in this?
So you don't really time this.
You don't have to. It can be very like simple. But also what we sometimes do here is that we ask questions, like during somatic trainings or with a client. Like what I might ask you is like any kind of open question that would deepen the conversation. Like, what is opening inside of you right now? Or what's moving? Anything like that. And then you can answer, and then we can switch sides. Like also switch the hands. Would you like to just switch?
Yep.
I'll just show different ways that people can do it. Still, yep. So left, yep, like this. And then I might ask another question. And then we can switch also the roles. that you'd be asking a question from me and I answer, and then we switch sides.
Yeah, I can see why this can be very like bonding and connecting.
Yeah.
Because like you're touching, but you're still like trying to tune into yourself.
Yeah.
Like if we actually get into the process right now, it will be difficult for me to like tune into myself, to be honest,
Yeah.
because I'm a kind of person who tend to give attention to others.
Yeah. And so for people like us, because I'm also that person, for people who are more overextending forward, the feeling can really be like feel the back of your back. Maybe also imagine the space behind your back. You can also place like a pillow or something behind your back to not leave your back body. Because that often happens when we're very much like forward leaning. Yeah. And for other people who might feel like this is too close, or I want to like lean back a little bit.
Yeah.
Because some people might be kind of like this, and then they're like, but wait, I'm like totally like, I'm like parallel. And actually, it might not be that way, and the other partner is also feeling that. So there might be like a question of like, how can I soften into this connection? And maybe like eye contact is too much. Like maybe you can look a little to the side or something. So it's just something to explore.
Yeah.
But really the invitation here is to feel yourself, like your legs, your back, different sensations, warmth, heat, like temperature, you know, where am I tense? Can I feel my heartbeat? Can I feel my breath? And then also feeling that in the other person. Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joelle.
Yeah.
This was beautiful.
Yeah.
Is there any other practice you want to share right now?
There is. I'll keep them shorter. Another practice is a consent practice, which kind of builds on mutual connection because, and the principle behind consent practice really is to practice saying yes, no, and maybe, or maybe can also be like, let me think about it. Anything that's not a clear yes or no. Because in our culture, again, how we're shaped, consent is so often assumed. And so in that practice, I would say one thing is about feeling consent inwardly. And then, like, even before I'm giving you a yes, no, or maybe, I'm starting to feel more like, what does that feel for me? And then I can make a choice of, like, how do I want to respond? And so the consent practice is very simple. I'll just quickly show that. We always bring in the body also through into that practice through like movement. And so in that practice, we'll do, and you can do this with me, and we can do this standing, sitting, anything. Yes is like this, and we'll just try how is for me to say yes. And again, it's very subtle, very simple. Like, is it easy for me to open my arms? Or is my yes more like this? Or is my yes like this?
Yeah.
That I don't have any boundaries? So we'll do that like a couple of rounds of just feeling how it is to say yes without any content. Then another one is no. I'll go just a little. Yeah. No is like this. And also you here noticing how are your elbows? Are they locked? Can you still, like, if you would be saying no to me, can you still feel me?
Right.
And how might your elbows need to be if it would be a no to my request and not no to me? Yeah.
My no is like this. See, I have no boundary.
Yeah. So this is very much like if a person came to you and your boundary is here, like there's very little space. But this is also very much of like what can often happen when people don't know how to say their no, that their no becomes like a push away. But actually we want to have a different range of yeses and nos from like a intimate decline, which is another practice, to a push away, where in one you're still staying in contact with the person in an intimate way, but saying no to their request, but in the other, you're actually saying a full no to everything. And then maybe is like this, kind of somewhere in between, yeah. And yeah, so we would like practice those things first without any content. Just a lot is already opening, even while you're showing me how you're doing it. And then we can add content of like, first, how do I say very clear yes to things that I am always a yes to, like ice cream or puppies, and noticing what happens in my body then, because that's information, what yes feels like in my body. And then what are things that I'm always a no to, that I can say a very clear no to, like, I don't know, some type of food that like, yeah, that you don't eat. And it's always a very clear no, and then getting clear on what that feels like in your body. And so, yeah, and then there's different ways that we can practice that by ourselves, like in front of the mirror, or with our partner. Like, hey, like, can we practice saying yes, no, and maybe? And then, of course, not just doing it as a separate practice, but bringing it into your life, whether it's like text messages or conversations you're having. We're giving there's so many moments to actually practice consent. Like someone calls you and is like, oh, are you free today? Another moment of practicing it. So
Yeah, for sure.
or even like inwardly with ourselves, like, what do I want to eat today? What am I feeling yes or no to? Or, you know, um, any things like, do I want to go on a walk today? Does that feel like yes or no today? So I think consent practice is something that we can almost always be in practice.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. So through these practices and also about like openly talking about kinks, how can it help people to like come back to the body that way? Like why is it important for us to openly talk about these things in order for us to tune into our body?
Well, we are all human beings, and not that everyone is a sexual being or sexual person or even a romantic person. There are, aromantic and asexual people. And in a vast majority of us, we all have these longings and desires, or most of us have these longings and desires. And so I think this is one of these topics like sexuality and kink that we all feel this, but because of our social conditioning and norms, it's such a taboo to actually talk about it in a way that's real. And so, like, one of the quotes that I really love about some, like, in terms of somatics is like, follow the process or follow the aliveness. And when we start to tamp down our aliveness, which can be also our sexuality, um, we actually suffer more. And there can be, these things get stuck in our body, and we're not living as authentic and as real and free lives. And so I think it's really important for us to be connected to our bodies, to be who we actually are, and to be present with what is actually happening, instead of um, thinking how we should be. And to me, should is always connecting to shame,
Yeah.
right? And shame, one of my teachers says that where there's shame, there's trauma. And a lot of the things that the society tells us that we should be is actually traumatizing to us, because it is not aligned with who we are or what we want. And the same goes for kinks and fetishes and any of these things. And so the better we can get in contact with our bodies, again, feel our bodies from the inside out, not just what is expected from the outside, um, the more we can actually start to take actions and start to live our lives in a way that is bringing us pleasure, is bringing us joy, and isn't about repressing and pushing down who we actually are.
What kind of shame do you see in your practice that people have?
Yeah. There's a lot of shame around being too much or not being enough.
Yeah.
A lot of also like connected to sexuality, but also more widely, the feeling of like, if I ask for this, I'm selfish, or I'm perceived to be selfish, or I can't indulge in my pleasure or joy because I'm not productive enough. I'm, not proper enough. I'm too weird. So, yeah, a lot of these things. And I would say that because kink and sexuality is often so repressed, it is often connected to shame, but I don't think it's always or even often a result of trauma. Like when I said, like, where there is shame, there is trauma, I think our desires often they don't come from trauma, although they can, but actually having these desires that are shamed and frowned upon can be traumatic. And so even by getting more in touch with our bodies in a slow and safe way, we can start to heal some of that trauma that people might be telling, like, oh, you shouldn't be this way, or this is too weird, or this is too extreme. But in reality, anything that we desire is okay as long as it is done in a safe, consensual manner, right? And so what shame often does is that it wants to hide. And so that's why it's really important, I think, to also work somatically with those things and not just, explore kinks or sexuality without making it somatic. And by that, I don't mean that everyone has to come to me or to go to some other somatic coach, but really, while you're doing a practice, a sexual practice, or a kink, that you're actually being inside of that experience. That it's not just for dissociation or leaving your body, but that it would invite you more into your body. Because the difference that we make between integrating something and just like dissociation is the ability to be present with what is happening, feeling your sensations, feeling the pleasure, feeling whatever is happening in the body, and being present with that.
So it sounds like you're very good at, listening to your body and listening to others' body. Do you still find yourself getting distracted by those social norms and how it should be?
All the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, there's no perfect way of being in our bodies.
Yeah.
I am still very much often anxious, often depressed, often struggling. And what I also want to say, and I think it's so connected, and I'll come back to your question, but it is so connected to this conversation around taboos. To me, healing is not about becoming just more centered or becoming more embodied in the pleasant and socially acceptable ways. It's also the ability to be with my darker or more shadowy parts of myself that I might not like, the endless Instagram doom scrolling or binge watching something or whatever that is for you. Like, I do these things all the time. And it's not about like, oh, I should have been more centered or more present or do more of the practices that I want to be doing. Because that, again, is shaming and shooting ourselves into being different. And that's not sustainable. But I think real transformation is this ability to welcome all parts of ourselves because they're not going to go away. They're not going to change. They will always be there. And to be able to hold them in a more cohesive whole and to switch from one to another in a way that is more, yeah, that there's more flow.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of forgot your question, and I don't know if I answered to it,
No, I
but
think you
that
did.
was what was coming up for me. Because in so many healing professions, and this is actually something that I'm just recently started reading about too, in so many healing professions, um, I find it, I understand why it is this way, but I find it quite annoying that there's an insistence upon like what it looks like to heal or how the person should be, um, and what are the things that they should do and shouldn't do.
Yeah, that's true. Like, stigma is around the healing practices also.
Yeah, and there's a lot of agenda, I also think, and what I've heard from my clients that like why they keep coming back to me is because they're like, you don't have any agenda. Like you're just holding me how I am, and like that's their process. So there's this term that I've been reading about called traumatophilia, which is this idea that what we as humans do with our trauma is that we actually instinctually want to move towards it, whether in our everyday life, in our relationship, sexuality, kink, any of these things. And what often ends up happening in healing spaces is that the the practitioner is therapist, coach, whoever that is trying to make the person to change, to correct that in a way that's again using a lot of this should. And so I think what what somatics and kink and sexuality can do is again look at what is actually there and make space for that, and um, yeah, and then kind of make choices from there. I don't know if it's too theoretical, but
No, I think that's
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
Okay, thank you, Joelle. So for the closing question, I always ask, what is a tea you want to spill to your younger self? So what is a tea you want to spill to your younger self about somatics?
I think the tea that I want to spill to my younger self about somatics is that it's gonna be so much more exciting and wild and edgy and taboo than you would have ever imagined. This whole healing journey that you're gonna take on, and really, you're gonna be so much more embodied and just happier for it on the other end. Yeah,
That's beautiful. Thank you, Joelle.
thank you.